Folks, thanks for joining me once again. Today we're looking at the Druga Narada AIO pod system by Augvape. This is an 1100 mAh internal battery that's charged via the micro USB lanyard that comes with the kit. Along with that has a 2mm pod that is removable with push fit coils, and there is also an RBA section available for it as well. A big thanks to Augvape for sending this over for review. Let's crack on. And that was the Druga Narada AIO pod kit by Augvape. Let's crack straight on, shall we? Talk about this device. Firstly, starting right at the top with this removable 510 drip tip. That, for me, I'm starting with a negative. For me, the drip tip is a bit too short. It's comfortable, but I just find my lips are resting more on the top of the device. You can, of course, use your own drip tip, slightly taller one, if you're into that kind of thing. I think it looks okay on the device. I don't have a problem with it really. Just find it a little bit too short for me personally. Hate starting with a negative, but that one's been bugging me. I haven't actually been using that one. I've been using this drip tip, this funny looking chest piece. And I've had no problems at all with it whatsoever. It fits in nice and snug, not coming out very easily. Just not my kind of thing, this kind of short drip tip. Carrying on from there at the front, you've obviously got this lovely window where you can check your level. It's not too tinted. You can see that level there nice and easily. It is slightly tinted, which is nice, but not too dark. And of course on the front of this as well, you've got your Type-C USB charge port, which is excellent. On the side, as you can see, is a fingerprint. You've got a fire button and that's it. There's no screen here, there's no wattage adjustment. The device will automatically set the wattage depending on your coil resistance. I think it does a pretty good job. At the back, you've got this removable panel, which is magnetic, and the panels on these are really nice. They're really, really nice. There's of course loads of different styles available, loads of different colours. There's a nice wood effect one, there's all sorts. They all look pretty smart, to be fair. And at the back, obviously now you've got access to this removable tank, which just slides out nice and easily. It doesn't seem to be clicked in there with any magnets or anything like that. It does slide out very easy, but when it's actually in there, it's not coming out that easily. So the tolerances are absolutely spot on with that. And of course at the back there, you can see where you can fill the tank without removing it. And there's also that little funny dial there to adjust the airflow. The whole feel of the device is very nice. It feels really good in the hand. The paint finish is really good. The panels look very smart, very swift. Like I say, loads of different styles. There's a nice weight to it. It's not heavy, but it's just nice and weighty, and you know you've got it. It is very small considering that weight. It is very small. And I quite like the style of it as a whole. I quite like the finish. I think they've done an excellent job with the build quality on this device, and the tolerances throughout with the drip tip and the tank and the removable panel, all really good. Absolutely spot on, no problems there whatsoever. Let's move on to the battery life. Thanks to that USB-C port, this will charge in 25 minutes. Now, I couldn't actually tell you that for a fact. What I could tell you is with a 2.1 amp charge, this charged in 30 minutes. Of course, it says on the back here, I'll show you, it says 1100 milliamp hour, 2.4 amp charge. So with a 2.4, yeah, 25 minutes, but even half an hour, that's amazing for this kind of device. And I've generally had 2 days life out of that battery, more so when I'm using a resistance around the 1 ohm, 1.2 ohm, around that. The more mouth to lung style of things, yeah, 2 days battery life, no problem at all. And with a 25 to 30 minute charge, it's on to the winner, absolutely. Let's talk about the pods very briefly. Of course, these pods have push fit coils. You do get a 0.6 ohm mesh, and you get a 1 ohm coil as well. It's primarily for a mouth to lung vape. They push in nice and easily. I've had no leaks, no issues from those coils. And the RBA deck as well, which I'm going to get onto very shortly. The pods have a 2 mil capacity. They fill up nice and easy. They're very, very nice indeed. And what I really like about these is somehow they've managed to squeeze in these BBC coils, so you get an airflow right up the centre, which apparently helps with flavour. Very, very good indeed. Very, very good. The RBA deck. First thing about the RBA deck is it does come with a 510 adapter, so you can put this deck on a regulated mod or on your core building jig, whatever you want to do, and you can make sure those resistors are right. You can pulse it, you can wick it, all more comfortable than trying to just have it either on this or in your hands. It gives you a bit more room to play around. It's kind of needed. Obviously, to be able to check your resistance is ideal. That part of it works really well. The actual deck itself is tiny, it's super small. It is very fiddly, the screws are very small. Fortunately, when I did my first build on this, it was under the camera, so I was able to see from the screen exactly what was going on. It was a bit simpler. I have done actually 2 builds since then, just on the table here, not under a camera. I managed it okay. You know, it takes a bit of time. It is a bit of a fiddle. Your coils, you don't really want to go above a 2.5 diameter. You're just not going to get it in. It's just going to be touching either side of them terminals. So you look at really small coils. Now I have been using, to be fair, I've been using these Nature 1.46 coils. It actually came out at 1.26 in the end. That's a 2.5 inner diameter coil. Works really well. Fits nice and snug. It screws down well. Now the clamps, where you screw those coils down, the clamps, you don't just have to cut the coil flush. You have to make sure, in fact, that the end of the coil isn't just flush with the terminal, but it's actually pushed in slightly. So what I ended up doing was trimming my coils as tight to the post as I could, and then actually loosening that terminal up very slightly and just pushing the coil in just an extra millimeter. I wish if it was possible they made the top cap of that coil 0.5 millimeter wider in its inner diameter, so it would fit over even the slightest bit of overhang on that coil. Is a little bit of a pain, if I'm honest. The amount of times where I'd cut it as tight as I could and tried to put the top cap of the coil on, it just wouldn't screw on. It just wouldn't get past that coil because of that issue. It's very, 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 very tiny minor tolerances, but it does make a difference when you're building on this. But overall, it works okay. If you've got good eyes and you're good with your hands and good with that kind of core building thing, you're going to enjoy building on this. It's a bit of fun. It is a bit technical. It is a bit fiddly. But if your eyes aren't great, yeah, you're going to need a magnifying glass or something to help you see, because it is very, very small. I find the screws that you actually screw the coil down with, they're long enough, but don't go too far, because once one of them falls out, you are going to struggle to find it. But the pack does come with a couple of spares, which is always good to see. I'm not going to say too much about filling, because it's very, very simple indeed. You don't have to remove the pod itself. You can just take off this rear cover, open up that silicone bit and just pour away. And the size of the hole for filling is big enough for most of your bottles you're going to use. Primarily, you're going to use this for mouth to lung, so you're going to be using Nick salts that come generally with that tiny little nib bottle, so you're not going to have any problems there. Flavour and clouds, let's get right to it. I've got the RBA deck in here, 1.26 ohm. There's no wattage adjustments. I've got the airflow almost at the minimum. Almost at the minimum. This is pretty much where I've been for the past couple of weeks. Let's give it a little bash. Really nice vape, folks. And what I'm impressed with is how good of a job this device does with setting that wattage right, depending on the resistance of the coil. The airflow is nice and smooth, and the flavour is pretty good with the RBA deck. Now, the 1 ohm coil that's provided, the push fit 1 ohm coil, flavour wise, it is lacking slightly for me. It performed very well, it lasted very well, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It just wasn't giving me that hit. Everything else is smooth about it. It is a nice, smooth, slightly warm vape. Enjoyable experience apart from the flavours lacking. And what I also have here then is the 0.6 ohm mesh core. So I'm quickly going to pop that one out. Pop the 0.6 ohm mesh in. You get a little flash from this tiny little indicator. See that little flash? There. And I've got the airflow all the way open. Let's give it a little bash. Now, I'm actually quite impressed by the vapour production from that 0.6 ohm mesh. It's a bit of a cloud chucker considering the size of this thing. And the flavour is pretty good to boot as well. A nice, slightly warm vape considering it's mesh. Works really well, flavour's very good. Very enjoyable if you're into that direct to lung. Now, it is obviously a little bit restrictive. Even with that airflow all the way open, there is that restriction. We're talking about a very small coil here that's not going to allow that much air through it. But you can direct to lung vape it. Now, you could obviously dial that airflow all the way down and have it as a mouth to lung, but I find with the 0.6 ohm mesh, the Narada dishes out a lot of power on that mesh coil. So with a mouth to lung vape, it's almost going to be too much power, and you can't then adjust that wattage down. So the 0.6 mesh really is more for a direct to lung vape, and it does a good job. Generally, the flavour and the cloud sort of thing are pretty impressive, to be honest with you. It's not the most flavour-filled, groundbreaking flavour. With the RBA deck or the 0.6 mesh, you're going to enjoy the flavour from it. I find the 1 ohm coil is just lacking a little bit, but it's still not bad at all. The airflow, very quickly going to talk about the airflow. The fact that you have this little dial on the side, and as you adjust, it spins that part open there, is an absolute winner. You can dial that in and it does make a difference. Just the tiniest of turns on that dial makes a difference to that airflow. It really works really, really well. Very simple to do. Again, it is a bit fiddly, it's very small, so you're going to probably want to use a screwdriver or some tiny tool just to adjust that airflow to your preferred, but it works really well. The airflow generally is nice and smooth, not very noisy. You can hear there with the 0.6 mesh, and that's all the way open. It's pretty quiet, if anything, and the same applies when you dial that airflow down. You're not going to get any whistles. The airflow's top notch. So what are my final thoughts on the Druga Narada by Augvape? I really like it. I do really like it. I've been using it, and I've been using this lanyard as well because it's a Type-C USB, so I'm able to charge my phone with it. It's not too heavy hanging around my chest, to be fair, but even so, if you just have this on your desk or in your pocket, it's not going to bother you too much. It is a shame there are no wattage adjustments, but I haven't really found a problem with it. I haven't missed not having that option to adjust the wattage manually. It just works very well and finds the right wattage. For me, it's been a lovely experience. The RBA deck, yes, is very small, is very fiddly, but it does work very well, and you are rewarded at the end with a decent vape. I don't have much bad to say about this. Yes, the drip tip's not not my favourite. I've really enjoyed using this. I've made a lot of use out of this with all the coils that I've got and the RBA deck. Done a couple of builds. It's really nice. It's definitely in my circle of devices I'm going to use, you know, daily. It's cracking. It's built really well. Feels really good. That tiny little LED indicator is very faint, but it's good to have it there just to see your battery level. Charging in 25 minutes to half an hour as well. It's absolutely cracking. And of course 1100 milliamp hour is plenty enough power to last long term. I'm sure in a year's time, even as that battery starts to degrade, there's still going to be enough power to at least get me through a day and a half. Absolutely cracking. So I hope that's helpful, folks. If it was, hit the like button or subscribe if you fancy it. Of course, the latest video is there, random one is there, and a big thanks to Augvape for sending me this over for review. I'm Augvape. Thanks for watching.